Welcome back to another episode of Legacy Battle. I am Michael Adams, my co-host tonight from the Gridiron Battle Zone, Brian King from Steelers Nation South, Rollo Coughlin. We have a career interview for you. We are joined by a three-time All-American out of Pepperdine University and a member of their Hall of Fame. She's got WTA and ITF title. We want to welcome to the show Northern United States Tennis Association Hall of Famer, Ginger Panos Helgeson. Thank you so much for being here.
Hi, thank you for inviting me on your show.
Excellent. And she's got a little friend with her, everybody.
This is Jordy. She's a little toy multi-poo.
Excellent. Well, like I said, we have a Q&A tonight. We'll start with Rollo.
Ginger, you started playing tennis at an early age because your brothers were playing. What influence did they have on your game, and how did it impact the way you approach the game?
Great question. So I was born into a very male-dominant family, three older brothers, 8, 10, and 13 years older than me. So I was we laugh and say a fortunate oops. So they were all high school, college scholarship athletes in tennis. And my dad built a tennis court in our front yard, and I was so much younger that they didn't really want to involve me. And so my dad built this amazing house, and we had a full racquetball court in the bottom of the house, and which was great for hurricanes and tornadoes. And I would get so upset that they wouldn't play with me that I'd go hit against the wall over and over and over again saying, "I will show you." And my dad would have bet $1 million that one of the boys would have been a professional tennis player, but it was me. So I guess, I wanted to be involved, and that's how I was able to be involved. It was just to get good enough so they would hit with me.
So you grew up in the Midwest, the upper Midwest, and then you took your talents to Pepperdine University, which is out in California. The beauty of Malibu. What was that change like, and how did it, what was it like moving such a different region?
Well, growing up in Minneapolis, first I was born in St. Cloud, and then I moved to Edina and had, played my high school career there. Every holiday I would be on a plane to go play a national tournament or a sectional tournament. And so I was used to traveling, and so leaving home wasn't as big of a deal, but certainly going from a cold weather state to Malibu was, it was a pleasant shock. And I chose Pepperdine because, obviously it's an amazing academic school and beautiful location, but I wanted to play right away and develop my skills. So when the other schools that were recruiting me, I wanted to make sure that I wasn't sitting on the bench at a Stanford or a UCLA, and where I could get in and play in the top against all the other D1 top players, number 1 or number 2. And so like my third semester at Pepperdine, I was playing number 1. So that really helped my development. And after 4 years, I left college, number 4 or 5 in the nation. So it was a really good fit for me because Pepperdine just kind of majors in the minor sports. So you don't have all the distractions of a big football team and all kinds of, it's a small campus. And so I was very focused on developing my tennis talent and academics.
So Pepperdine is actually a religious school, supposedly a dry campus. So, you were a 4-year letterman there, like we said, 3-time All-American in the intro. What was life like on a dry campus? And tennis-wise, I'm going to guess maybe Stanford was one of your big rivals. Stanford's always one of the best in the country.
Yeah. No, we played Stanford, UCLA, Florida State, all the best teams. And like I said, that was putting me against all the other number ones. And so that is a very different experience than going to Stanford and playing 6 or 5 or on the bench. And I think my highest ranking coming out of the juniors was 18 in the 18-year-olds. So I wasn't like a phenom, top recruit for those schools. But I think my slower development out of Minneapolis, like most people, like David Wheaton that you had on your show, they moved to the voluntary tennis academies or Hopman. And I chose to do it differently, to stay at school, at home, where I was supported and develop socially and tennis wise. And I think that slower progression helped me to still have the energy and the drive later as I got to become a pro, where a lot of the girls that were just one in the 16 and 18s, they kind of burned out. So I think for me, that progression of doing it a little differently helped me in the long run.
So I went through your career, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it seemed to be that you were most successful on hard courts, and that includes at majors. Was there something to your game that favored that type of court?
Well, being an American player, we grew up on hard courts, and clay is a much different animal. You have to have a lot of patience. The South American players are used to growing up on that. So I would say in general, the American players are not quite as patient because we grew up on hard courts. So you can win a point, then 10 shots, the average point, the last 10 shots. And on clay, you're up in the 20s and 30s. And so you need a lot more patience. So hard court was very familiar with me. And yes, I had my best results on hard court. So, but to be an all-around player, you have to be able to adapt and play hard court, then change to clay, and then change to grass, and then come back to the US Open and play on the hard court. So that's why Steffi accomplished winning the Super Slam and Serena is just, it's really amazing. Because it's very difficult to change surfaces so quickly and still be, successful.
Well, Ginger, looking at your game specifically, what do you feel was your biggest strength on the tennis court? Your serve, or your return, or backhand, or forehand?
I was an aggressive baseliner. And so I built my game around my forehand. And I wasn't afraid to come to the net, but my game was built around my forehand, my inside out forehand, which you see, a lot today. So I had a decent serve, not huge, but it was more just a very attacking style from the baseline.
Well, a few times during your career, you found yourself across the court from Conchita Martinez in a major, twice at the French Open and once at the U.S. Open. And I've read her style, with her style, she was very difficult to play against because she would sort of mess with an opponent's rhythm with the top spin returns. So is this true? And what was it like, for you going against Conchita? I know you were able to beat her in the '94 U.S. Open. So
yeah, so it's interesting. Conchita is just an amazing player and now an amazing coach. And that year, I drew her in at the French Open, and she took it to me on clay, which was her service. And then come in July, I played her here in San Diego at La Costa. And my coach was at that tournament too. And after that loss, it was like 3-4 or something like that. We understood what her patterns were when I would attack and come to the net, how she would pass, where she would pass. And I just got I got closer and closer to, okay, this is within reach. I know I have the goods to beat her. And then I drew her 2 weeks later at the US Open. So I played her in the third round. She had just won Wimbledon. And my coach had given me a plan on a playbook. This is what you're going to stick to beat her. And every athlete knows that when things get tough or very tense or they aren't going well, we all tend to revert back to what we know, right? It's just human nature. But it takes courage to stick with a plan, even though you're not feeling comfortable. So she won the first set, I won the second set, and third set, I sat down in my chair and I said, okay, this is it. You have a time to either revert back or stay with the plan. And my coach at the time, Hugh Bream, said, look, just stay with this. You can do this. And I pulled off a big upset on an outside show court in the third round to get to the fourth round of the US Open. And it was one of the highlights of my career. And I was pretty proud of that win. So that was fun.
Ginger, you played at all four majors. You also played at Wimbledon, which is one of the most prestigious events in the entire world. What was it like taking the court at Wimbledon for the first time? And what did you take away from your moments in the majors, your most memorable moment?
That's a great question. And it's interesting because on my very first Wimbledon, I sat in the player lounge. It rained for 3 days straight. So it was my first Wimbledon, and I had walked Pete Agoscu, my mentor, said, go and sit in the stadium when nobody's there when you first get there, and just kind of feel the history and the excellence that has played there. And so I did that, but I think it kind of worked not to my advantage, because sitting there for 3 days thinking about my first Wimbledon was, when I got out there, was like, ah. So that wasn't my best. I think my best result, I'm not a stats girl. I just put my head down and play. So I just don't even, you guys can look up the stats, but I had pretty good results in doubles, I think fourth round there, and maybe third round in singles. But grass is just such a special surface to play on. It's so fast. So it does fit my game. And I loved playing there. It was an honor. And my mom took me there when I was 12 years old on a trip, and I was just fascinated by the players, the facility, everything, and the history. And I never really thought that I could play there that one day. And later on, she was able to watch me play there one time before she passed. So that was really special.
So you had a career-threatening injury. Tell us how that came about, how it was fixed, and how it led you to some of the things that you're doing today.
So it actually was a wrist injury. The tendons in my wrist, the sheath had kind of fallen down, and that was when I was at 29 in the world. So it was a really unfortunate, serious injury. I was out for 18 months. And the WTA, I was apparently one of the highest ranked player to like completely drop off the computer. And so part of my fight with them to protect players that get a career ending or a very, long-term injury was an injury protection rule. And so with what happened to me, they came up with that rule that is still in place today, which is after you've been out, I think it's a minimum of 9 months, 10 months, something like that. They give you your ranking back plus, I don't know, 20 points lower or something, so that you have 9 attempts back at all the Grand Slams or whatever level you came back at or left. And so it allows you to not lose your house, and you still have a standard of living that you were used to. So that really saved me. And then when I came back, really put myself into doubles a lot because I wasn't winning a whole lot in singles. I was drawing Venus, I was drawing Mary Pierce, I was drawing top players right out of the first round. And I didn't have any confidence because I'd been out for 18 months. So I really leaned into my doubles then, and had fourth round quarterfinals in several big tournaments and Grand Slams. So, but one of the things that really changed my life was when I was at Pepperdine, I had plantar fasciitis, which was a really debilitating, painful, issue in my feet. And before I turned pro, I was like, I got to get this solved. And my dad and his wife, my bonus mom at the time, they knew of Pete Agoscu, and he's the founder of Postretirement therapy. And so my dad said, Ginge, get down from Pepperdine. I'll pay for it. Just go in there. And I walked in and I said, Mr. Agoscu, I don't know what you do, what this is, but if you could take the pain away from my feet, I'll do whatever you say. And I really learned that the site of the the symptom is not really where the dysfunction is coming from. So I didn't have surgery. He gave me a personalized menu of exercises I do like before I go on the court, and then put the body into neutral at the end of the day. And I just kept doing that. And my nickname on the tour was Stretch, because I was always on the ground prepping my body before I played. But it kept my feet healthy and pain-free. So he's a big reason why I got to 29 in the world, because he really helped me turn around my body and taught me how to take care of it myself. And I was lucky enough to meet him when he was just getting started. And now he has 70 affiliate clinics in the US and 6 books and 3 clinics worldwide. And so I'm very, very, very grateful for meeting Pete and having him as a mentor. So Pete Agoscu, thank you, thank you, thank you. And now I got my degree in Postretirement therapy, and now I work with a lot of professional athletes. I have like 6 major leaguers, lots of minor league baseball players, college players, high school players, and non-athletes that I work with to do the same thing that Pete did for me. So really loving this part of my life in a second career.
Thanks. Well, you kind of answered my next question a little bit, but I was going to say you retired from pro tennis in '98. I understand, post-retirement, you became an instructor. You served on the Southern California Coaches Commission Board, and then the physical therapy and posture alignment that you just spoke of. So, which of these post-retirement projects has been your favorite, and what is there something next for you, or are you going to continue with what you're doing?
Well, I teach about 8 hours a week, really long time clients that I really enjoy teaching. It keeps me in touch with tennis, and I am more energized about my posture alignment therapy business. And it's just so interesting because I don't advertise. It's just one athlete and they talk to the next athlete. And I have a White Sox player starting this Wednesday, Jordan Sprickle. And I just really, because I've been there, done it, and I know how debilitating and how frustrating it can be to have the talent, but if the horse can't go, the horse can't go. So, right. And so preventing injuries, helping people get out of pain, lack of range of motion, it's just really rewarding. And so that's my passion now. So just continuing to grow that. And I had a client this morning, and my office is in the back of the house, separate building. And so my clients come to me, but I also do Zoom with all the baseball players that are not local.
And one quick thing, you shortchanged yourself. You made it to the 4th round of the Australian and U.S. Open. So
thank you, stat guy. When one of my sons was like 10 years old, he goes, "Mom, do you know you have a Wikipedia site?" And I'm like, "No." And he goes, "Do you know you have the winningest career percentage at Pepperdine?" And I'm like, "No." So I was just kind of that person that I didn't pay attention to stats. I didn't think I was doing that well, but you just put your head down, you do your thing, you work, and then, at the end you go, "Oh, I did all right."
So I just wanted to ask you real quick. I didn't actually have this planned, but we were talking about how good you were on hardcourt. Did you ever get to play on carpet?
I think in Japan.
Japan. Okay.
Yeah.
And how did you like it?
Or maybe even in Berlin. I've played in so many places you forget, but it was lightning fast. But I do like the fast pace of it, and it was easier because you don't have the bad bounces like grass, right? So grass is the fastest surface, but indoor carpet is even faster. So interesting. I mean, not my favorite, but got to at least experience it.
You are considered the greatest tennis player ever to come out of Minnesota, men and women. So keep your own horn there.
Minnesota grown on California loan.
I think David Wheaton would want to argue with that. But,
I know,
hey.
I know. Our families were actually very close. All my brothers played against his brothers. We
Oh,
were,
nice.
you know, we knew each other very, very well. And we did the inner city tennis charity for many years together. And it's still going in Minneapolis. So scholarships and after school programs for inner city tennis kids. So yeah, know David and very proud of his success. We played 1 year mixed at Wimbledon. I think we drew Lindsay Davenport the first round, and I can't remember the guy she was playing with, but at least we got to play with each other once. So
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for working out the time difference and coming on the show. We just awesome to speak with you.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. It's been a pleasure. Nice to meet all of you.
I remind everybody, hit that like, subscribe, notification button. I can never stress enough how important that is. Thank you for watching. We'll see everybody next time. Have a great night.